Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode in isolation. Absolutely fantastic day today after so much support from yesterday doing my 2k PB in the room over there. So we've moved the erg back into YamK V2 with the Yam Squad flag behind with the support of the Yam Squad as always. And I just want to say again, thank you so much to all of the support, or to the Yam Squad for all of the support. It's been a wild ride and we're keeping on going forward, and today I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you sort of the plans going forward because they've changed a little bit. They've moved around a little bit. Big reason being the sort of change in the sporting world over the coming few months. And no, this isn't an April Fool's. I've already seen so many April Fool's jokes and videos and everything, and this is actually a serious one. Not a serious one, it's a usual vlog about what the program actually is. So I'm not saying I'm going to do 50 million meters a day or I'm going to do flat out 2Ks every day. No, nothing like that for April Fools. This will actually be me discussing sort of the aims going forward, or really the big aim going forward and why that may be. But first things first, we've got a lovely erg planned, and it's just a steady one. Steady erg, especially after yesterday, cooling down, or at least easing the body back into training again, or training consistently again, and then sort of basically from now just trying to be that bit more consistent, since consistency has been lacking a little bit over the last couple of weeks, just getting used to isolation and all that jazz. So we'll get on with this erg, so about 90 minutes, so let's get to it. And we've finished 100 minutes on the rowing machine. Let's see the memory. And there we go. So 57.7 looks like a little bit slower than the previous sort of 90 minutes, 100 minutes before the 2K, which to be expected after doing a 2K yesterday. 2K or a 2K can take it out of you by quite a bit, or it can take quite a bit out of you. So today, going by my heart rate, just to make sure I'm in the right zones, training in the right way, and getting a good 100 minutes in there, just to sort of start this new training block off on the right foot. So, speaking of this new training block, let's talk about what this new training block is going to be for, is going to be aimed at. Well, before we can get into that, I kind of have to talk about the previous two training blocks. So we had one just after I left Leander Club, speaking to Charlie, writing the program, and the program was to be gearing me up for Paris, for the World Indoor Rowing Championships, to see how fast I can get my 2K. So what the training program looked like was quite a lot of high intensity work to get my body used to being in the pain cave, essentially. And looking back, it definitely meant that I was ready for being in the pain cave. Like the pain cave, I could just get my head torch on and go really deep underground into that pain cave. But going forward into the second block of training to build off of that, it kind of felt like I had almost reached a ceiling of that at high intensity. So the idea with the second block was, okay, if I'm hitting that ceiling of high intensity, if I'm pushing, and only getting smaller gains, then the idea is, how do you increase that ceiling and push on? Well, a little bit of variation, not only impacting the motivation, but also impacting the body, because the body itself can get used to external stimuli and then not adapt as much. So if you vary that stimuli, not too often, but if you vary that stimulus, then you can end up having bigger changes, bigger gains, bigger adaptations. So in the second block of training, which was supposed to be 12 weeks and finishing mid-April, but with the COVID-19 whole isolation debacle, we've shortened the block, so it's ended up just being about 8 to 9 weeks. And the idea of the block was higher volume, lower intensity. So we did a reasonable amount of volume. I can't remember the exact mileage. I think over the 2 months it was, so the idea was about 1,000,000 meters a month, and we didn't hit that because for the first couple of weeks that we did the program that was aiming at about 1,000,000 meters a month, I was really feeling heavily fatigued. So we backed off a little bit with the mileage and intensity, and then pushed on with the weights. So kept the mileage high, but not as high as initially planned. Kept the intensity low with only small or only relatively little high intensity sessions, and the weights I think were where the big gains were had. So combined in the second block was hitting the weight sessions really hard, increasing recovery by just reducing that mileage slightly and reducing the intensity, and then with the higher mileage really focusing on increasing that aerobic capacity. So with those two blocks, basically testing out the VO2 max, testing out the upper ends of my intensity abilities. Second block, testing out or trying to push the aerobic capacity. So now the idea is, in theory, that with a higher or bigger aerobic base, I should in theory be able to hit higher highs in the sort of high intensity or VO2 max side of things. So this next block, starting off yesterday with a 2K as a benchmark to see, okay, well, with the lower intensity and very little high intensity sessions for a training block, how fast can you go for a 2K? So did the 2K yesterday. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't watched that, just head on back to yesterday's video to watch me do the 2K at 5:49. That's a 1 second PB for me. When the last time I did a 5:50 in 2000 and I think that was 2017. No, 2018, November 2018. And so it's been 2 years since, or almost 2 years since that. No, about a year and a half since that. So it's been good to sort of step on after a relatively long period of time since that PB. And then the last 2K I did in Paris that wasn't low rate or rate capped was a 5:52. So using things I learned from that 2K specifically about pressure and using my strengths in yesterday's 2K meant I ended up with another PB. But there's a couple of things I could change, like tapering properly and focusing on prepping properly for a 2K, and a couple of other things sort of strategy wise that I think it's a case of a couple of seconds could come off there relatively easily. And the idea with this block, this new training block, is not combining the two previous blocks, but using what we've learned in the previous two training blocks about how my body adapts to training. Am I not just on the erg, on the water, in the weights room, but just as well as out of training, how I recover. Because it seems like if I have more time to recover, this is going to be the same with everyone, the more time you have to recover, the better you recover. But it seems like my recovery is relatively slow. So if I do have that little bit of extra time, it can make massive impacts on the whole sort of adaptation, the whole training program. So keeping that idea into the training block, but now instead of having high mileage, really low intensity versus the first block, which was really high intensity, kind of mixing the two together. And the idea is basically to see how fast we can get the 2K, because with basically the whole racing calendar wiped off of 2020 for the summer, there isn't going to be any racing, or at least for the very near future. So the idea for this next block was to make sure I can get on the water loads and increase my sculling ability. And that looks like it's not going to happen, unfortunately, just because getting outside is a privilege, and going out to row, I have to drive away and get on the boat outside and all that stuff. So looking like rowing won't be happening at this current stage. So more erging, because remember, erg is bay, especially in these trying times, as well as sort of working on the intensities. So finding the balance that we found in the last block of the intensity. So perhaps slightly reducing the mileage, but bumping the intensity up slightly as well to see how that affects sort of exploring that pain cave and then seeing how fast we can do a 2K at the end of this block. I'm not 100% sure how long this block will be because last time we planned on a 12-week block, a really solid 12-week block, and things got in the way. So we'll see in this next block, it'll be at least 6 weeks because your body doesn't really adapt very well or a lot for any less than that, and then you ideally want over 8 weeks. So we're looking at ideally 8, but then we'll see that's 2 months, and that brings us to May, June time. So we're going to see how we go from here to there, and fingers crossed Yam Squad to see where I can go in about 2 months. So 549, really good start, really good benchmark for this block, because this block will be less about, okay, it's a rush to improve the 2K for, say, we did that for Paris for the Indoor Worlds, but this is a sort of not as much of a rush, but more of keeping the experimenting going, but keeping the consistency also. So hopefully that all made sense. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are trying anything differently in your training. Also, a couple of questions on the Yam Squad custom training program. So if you've made it this far, really appreciate you watching it to here. But if you do want to be, so I write custom training programs for some people in the Yam Squad. If you are interested in that, then there are, I've limited the amount of spaces, and because I don't want to sort of overstretch myself, there's only 2 spaces left on that sort of custom training program. Basically what happens is we have a chat, we see what your goals are, and then I write what I think will get you to that stage, and then we go from there. But with everything going on just now, I understand it's no one really knows what's going on, so we'll see what's kind of happening. So that will be it for today's episode, Yam Squad. Hopefully we can all look forward to the future together, Yam Squad. Yesterday, massive sort of motivation for me. Hopefully you guys gained a little bit of motivation too. A lot of people messaged saying, I went on the erg today for the first time in a long time after watching your 2K in the kitchen. A lot of you said did some extra miles for the Yam Squad challenge. If you, unfortunately for the Yam Squad challenge on the Concept 2 World Erg Challenge for the Yam Squad team, you can still sign up for the Yam Squad team, but you can no longer sign up to the challenge. So I really recommend, if you are erging at all, to join the Yam Squad team and submit your meters so you can track and see how you're doing versus other people, but you can't compete in the erg challenge rankings because the deadline to sign up was last week. But also there's a couple of other challenges coming up in the Concept 2 World for indoor erg challenges, so hopefully we can get to be doing those with the Yam Squad as a team. And as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and I will see you tomorrow for the next episode of the vlogs. Oh yeah!